The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And to find out about the programming we have available for you, 724, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. And to find out about what we have on the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV, just go to www.simultv.com. And don't forget, we're looking for programming for our 24/7, 365 TV channel. So if you have any videos that you'd like to send in, or if you have a program that you've previously aired that you would like to have over 30 million people watch it, send it to me at, let me see, what should we do? Craig, which address should we use? Okay, we'll just send it to xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, and we'll contact you. It's that plain. It's that simple. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Denver Michaels. He is an author with a passion for cryptozoology, the paranormal, lost civilizations, and all things unexplained. At age 42, the Virginia native released his first book, People Are Seeing Something, a culmination of many years of research into the lake monster phenomenon. Since then, he has gone on to write Water Monsters South of the Border and Wild and Wonderful and Paranormal West Virginia. Denver is employed as an engineering technologist and works full-time. He is married with 3 children. In his spare time, Denver enjoys the outdoors and traveling, and he continues to perform research and writing for future works. Now, here you go, X Zone Nation. If you'd like to find out more about our special guest this hour, Denver Michaels, visit him online at www.denvermichaels.net. And Denver, welcome to the X Zone.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's great having you with us. As I was telling you before we went on air, lake monsters, one of my most favorite topics, and I'll tell you why. When I was a young boy, my grandparents owned a summer cottage on Missisquoi Bay, which is part of Lake Champlain. And, of course, Champ. You know, everybody talks about Champ. And, there are many lake monsters across Canada and the United States. So this is one of my favorite topics, and I'm looking forward to sharing an hour with you.
Well, that's good to hear. It's good to talk to somebody that's passionate about the topic as well.
So tell me, how did you get involved in the passion of lake monsters?
Well, for me, unlike you, growing up, having on a property that, has, lake monsters and stuff. Down here where I live in Virginia, we don't really even have any lakes or a few man-made lakes. So it was kind of later on, later on in my teenage years that I kind of got into it. I'd always been into the paranormal and, anything kind of weird and unexplained. I mean, I remember like in middle school going to the library and I was that weird kid that would get the books on ESP and things like that and take them home and read them. But,
right.
So I'd always kind of been into things that were unexplained. And I guess with lake monsters in particular, I can kind of pinpoint it to that old show in the 80s that I used to love so much, Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Stack.
Yeah.
he's just one of my favorites. And I remember one of the episodes. I don't remember if it was in 1990, 91, 89, somewhere in that time frame. They did an episode on the Ogopogo up in British Columbia, and that kind of I don't know, that kind of lit a fire under me, I guess, because really for me, I was just familiar with Loch Ness Monster. I remember as a kid going to the supermarket and, seeing the Loch Ness Monster on the tabloids and things like that. So I didn't really think much of it, but to learn that, that not just, in Loch Ness, but other parts of the world, there were lake monsters. And, from there, topic just kind of stuck with me.
Have you ever seen a lake monster?
I have not. Unfortunately, I have not. I can say I've done a double take a couple times, thinking that, maybe I saw something, but I can't say that I've ever, had a sighting for myself.
Well, based on the research that you've done, could you give us a physical description of what these creatures are supposed to look like?
Well, this is a general, I kind of call it, your typical, in air quotes, lake monster descriptions. And, they're fairly consistent. I mean, you get differences, but generally speaking, they're, 30 feet long, give or take, 20 feet, 50 feet. But, generally, I'd say they're usually about 30 feet long. People describe them. They're serpentine in appearance, usually long-necked. A lot of times people report, seeing a neck above the water, 4, 5, 6 feet. Multi-humped, dark in color. Their movements a lot of times are described as undulating. I've read or heard where people have described them almost looking like a sine curve, when it moves through the water. And, of course, like I said, sometimes the descriptions, vary a little bit. Sometimes you'll hear of like flippers, sometimes not, sometimes scales, sometimes smooth skin. But, generally speaking, 30 feet long, dark in color, serpentine in appearance.
How could these kind of monsters stay so elusive all these years without some sort of smoking gun being discovered yet?
Well, that's the $64 million question, I guess. And but to me, for one thing, I don't think that there's a heck of a lot of these things. You do have a lot of reports scattered around, but I guess what I'm saying is, that they would be on the endangered species list, right? If you could prove that they exist. I don't think there's a heck of a lot of them. Right. But for the other thing, though, like a lot of these lakes that they inhabit, I mean, they're really big and they're really deep, and that's just a lot of water for these things to, kind of avoid detection. Most of these lakes are, maybe not most, but a great many of these lakes where these reports come from are rumored to have caverns, underwater cavern systems. And, some of them are rumored, to lead out to the ocean or to other lakes. So there's that method that they could, travel back and forth between waterways. And beyond that, I've always kind of theorized that they live a very long time, and that that you don't need large populations to sustain colonies. I know that maybe last year or the year before, with the Greenland sharks, that they were talking about those living over 400 years. So I mean, what if maybe these lake monsters have really long lifespans too? It's just a thought.
It seems that those of you, and I know that you're into cryptozoology, pick the topics and pick the subjects that evade, unprecedented proof. For example, the same thing applies to Bigfoot, and I see a lot of similarities between lake monsters and Bigfoot. Not into the species, but I mean how evasive they are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I'll be the first to admit, I mean, there is absolutely a frustrating lack of evidence, and there's pictures, there's videos, and this goes for Bigfoot, this goes for lake monsters, and it always seems like it's inconclusive. You can never really get that money shot. I mean, to me, the gold standard for lake monster pictures would be if you're familiar with the Sandra Mancy photo of Champ, I think back in 1977, and for Bigfoot, I mean, the gold standard is still the Patterson-Gimlin film from back in 1967. So
sure.
With all the time that's gone by and upgrades in technology, there still really hadn't been any advances as far as evidence goes.
All right, Denver, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our first break. Exonation Denver Michaels is our special guest. His website is www.denvermichaels.net. And Denver and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, you can find out about all the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, just by going to www.xzbn.net. Denver Michaels and I return on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. All right, Exonation, we're talking about lake monsters and cryptids this hour here with our very special guest, Denver Michaels is his name, and his website is www.denvermichaels.net. We were talking about lake monsters, and is there any similarity between all the lake monsters in the world as far as descriptions, or are all the lake monsters' descriptions different? Are they found in different lines of longitude, latitude? What's the commonality between them all?
Well, I would say, based on most of what I've looked into, what you find is the lake monsters in the northern latitudes, the northern U.S., Canada, then on over into Scandinavia, Russia, and parts of Asia, they're pretty consistent in the descriptions. And then when you get down into the Patagonian region of South America, you again get the your typical lake monsters. Beyond that, though, in South America, Central America, the lake monsters are a lot different there, or water monsters, I would more call them. They're more your dinosaurs, your large snakes. There's water tiger legends, and a lot of the the cryptids there almost seem to be mythical. A lot of them.
Why the difference?
I attribute it to the whatever it is in the northern and southern latitudes. You've got your from the ice ages. You've got these deep glacial lakes, and predominantly these that's where the typical again in air quotes lake monsters are found, is in these deep glacial lakes. For whatever reason, they're, and I don't know exactly what the answer is, but that's typically where you find the bulk of your lake monster sightings, is in these real deep, narrow, long glacial lakes.
It seems that with all the modern technology that we have at our disposal, it would be a lot easier to do research and to actually find out what and if these mythical creatures really exist. How come that hasn't happened yet?
Well, I mean, for one thing, to really get to the bottom of it, you'd have to take a lake with a lot of sightings, say maybe Lake Champlain or Okanagan Lake, but it would take a tremendous amount of research, and you've got to have you'd have to have funding. I mean, I don't know anybody that's really just like a paid monster hunter. I mean, it's not really cryptozoology. You can write books and kind of do this on your own, but as far as being able to just be out there all the time, and and to have the modern technology at your disposal, I mean, it would take a lot of funding and stuff. So nobody's really that I know of is ponying up grant money to hire scientists to go look for these things.
But what about that deep sonar or radar that deep sonar scan that was organized in Loch Ness? That was a couple of years ago, and they found nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and it could be that that Nessie is traveling back and forth between other lochs or the sea, or some people have speculated that that they go into the loch to feed at times, and then swim out either through the lake or I mean through the river Ness, or through these underwater caverns. That could be one thing, or I mean, it's got to be on the table that maybe nothing's there.
Speaking about nothing being there, what role do hoaxers play in the lake monster phenomenon?
Well, I definitely think that hoaxers have a role. Especially back like in the 1800s. When you had a lot of the real sensationalist newspaper reports and those kind of things. I think that the Walgreen Lake monster in Nebraska can be attributed to that. There was, because that lake, I mean, I want to say, off the top of my head, I think it's only like 80 acres, so it's really not what you would think big enough to support a lake monster. But there were, there were a lot of these stories, many years ago.
Well, can you tell
about a monster there? And I think a lot of that's just with sensationalized stories, and even with a more modern one, the Oklahoma octopus. That is almost just like something that just kind of took off from from a TV show. The Animal Planet did a Lost Tapes episode on the Oklahoma octopus, and everything you read about it today is almost verbatim from that television show, which, a lot of the script from the television show can be traced to a Stephen King short story. So it kind of, it almost just kind of took off from there, it seems like. So well, I think hoaxes and things like that do play a role, but with that being said, I think that there's still enough reason to believe that there might be a little more to the phenomenon.
Can you tell us about the octopus story? I've never heard about that.
Oh, the Oklahoma octopus? Well, so back in the mid 2000s or late 2000s, there was kind of an uptick in drownings in several Oklahoma lakes, and 3 of them, I believe, was Lake Tenkiller, Lake Thunderbird, and Ulagala Lake. And I'm probably saying that last one wrong. But anyway, they're all man-made lakes. So right there, you got to be a little bit skeptical if there's a lake monster in there. But at any rate, I mean, the reports were that like a little boy drowned, and I think it was 7 or thereabouts. Very tragic. But like as he was fighting to stay afloat, he yelled that something was trying to or that something was pulling him under, and so I think it said there was a 40% uptick in drownings from like 2007 to 2008. And at any rate, this story about an octopus, like a freshwater octopus, was in these lakes, and basically it just goes that there were these teenagers that a couple of them drowned, and anybody, I would just tell anybody that's listening, after we're done, if you're interested, just Google it and you'll see what I'm saying. Just Google Oklahoma octopus, and you'll just see the same stories repeated over and over. Where one of the girls' name was Ruthie Simple, and she had like blister marks from tentacles, and I think she might have escaped the attack. And at any rate, if you just go back and go watch Animal Planet Lost Tapes Oklahoma octopus episode, pretty much everything you read on the internet about the Oklahoma octopus can be traced there. But if you trace that story back a little bit, it's very similar to a Stephen King short story called The Raft, where there were some teenagers out on a lake. And it wasn't like an octopus there. It was like this oily substance that would just kind of, I guess if you got into water, it would just kind of like absorb you or whatever. So, it's very similar to that short story. So it's almost like, just kind of like that urban legend thing unfolding right before your eyes.
So what kind of animals have been blamed over time for the sightings of lake monsters?
Well, there's your typical culprits or seals, seals, and you can see that, the way that they swim. the way that they dip in the water and those things. I know that in Canada, the Igo Pogo in one of the lakes there. I think that's in Lake Simcoe, but I could be getting my lakes mixed up. But at any rate, there'd been a lot of lake monster reports out of there, and someone actually spotted a seal on the lake. So, you could kind of attribute that to to the lake.
But
monsters.
is there?
Of course, you get. I'm sorry.
Is there such a thing as a freshwater seal?
There are freshwater seals, yes. Up in I can't remember how many species there are. I know that up in Alaska, Iliamna Lake, they have a population of freshwater seals up there. But even your saltwater seals, they'll swim inland a ways sometimes and end up in just like weird places, further away than they should be. So, that kind of thing happens. It's kind of rare.
All right, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour, and Denver Michaels and I will return on the other side of this break with the news here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, check out all the fine programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 at xzbn.net, and also check out SimulTV, simultv.com.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Den.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com.
That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
We're talking about lake monsters this hour here in the X Zone. Denver Michaels is our guest. He's an author with a passion for cryptozoology, the paranormal, lost civilizations, and all things unexplained. His website is www.denvermichaels.net. So let me see. The 5 to 10% of sightings that can't be explained by any of the previously discussed scenarios. What do you think are behind these reports?
Yeah, so that's kind of, what I tell people is, maybe, misplaced animals, like we were just talking about seals, or maybe natural phenomenon like waves or light distortions on the water, and then your hoaxes, that could probably account for 95%, maybe even more. But what about that 5%? So, what I think, and of course I can't prove it, but I think that there's something prehistoric, maybe a plesiosaur-like creature, or like in Lake Champlain, a lot of people think that a Tanystrophus, and that's a reptile from the Triassic that's about 20 feet long, and it just has an exaggeratedly long neck almost. A lot of people think that that's behind Champ sightings. I think that something like that has somehow lived a lot longer than it was supposed to have died out, is behind it. And that might sound crazy, but it's not uncommon for scientists to learn that something that is extinct, that they find out that it lived a lot longer than they thought. I can think like the Siberian unicorn. They thought it went extinct millions of years ago, but recently they discovered that it probably lived up to maybe 40 or 30,000 years ago. So it's not without precedent for something to have kind of flew under the radar, I guess.
So tell me, Denver, what are your favorite lake monsters?
Probably my favorites, I would say Champ and Ogopogo, just because of the number of sightings. With Champ, I think that there's probably, I think I heard that there's like 600 documented reports, and the Ogopogo, there's not as many documented reports, because I don't think they really started documenting them to the late 1800s, but the native tales go very far back there of the lake monster sightings. And another one I really like is in Lake Pend Oreille in Idaho is the paddler. The lake monster's name is Paddler, and there's been speculation that it might be people might be mistaken a quarter model Navy submarine for a lake monster, because they do they do their submarine testing of their their quarter and fifth scale models out in that lake. And a lot of people think that the lake monster sightings they didn't really start till around World War II out there. So it might be a lot of there's been a lot said that maybe the Navy might have floated a lake monster story kind of for cover for some of the secret activity that they were doing out there. So I think that's kind of a cool tale.
That's cool. That is really cool. When talking about lake monsters, what's the best way to approach skeptics?
Well, for me, the biggest thing is just look at how much water there is, and a lot of these lakes, like I was talking earlier, is has access, to the oceans, either through rivers or underground subterranean passages, that sort of thing, and just look at how many lakes there are. I mean, just look at a map of North America. Canada and the northern United States, just how much water that there is, and these lakes are deep, and it's for me, it's just hard to tell what could be lurking in some of these places, and with and I remind people too that, I mean, new species are discovered. Usually it's insects or things like that. In the Amazon, I think they discover something new every other day. So, like I said, usually it's something small, but, occasionally, something big is discovered. So I just think that there's a world of possibilities out there. We don't know everything that's going on.
What does the scientific community say about lake monsters?
They're not too receptive to it. They, in the cases where they would take it kind of seriously, it would, they would typically point to something, like a known animal. And really, I mean, that's the first place you should look. I mean, you should see if it could be explained by a known animal. And typically people, will point to sturgeons, like alligator gar, these really big fish that are, that are known to exist in a lot of these lakes and things.
You cover other topics that you write about, the paranormal, lost civilizations, and all things unexplained. Tell us about the lost civilizations that you have an interest in, a passion about, and share your experiences with us.
Well, I'm really these days. I don't know if I would really consider it a lost civilization, but maybe. I'm really into tales of giants, and that's a book that I'm working on right now. I'm working on a book about the myths and the legends of giants all over the world, and in part of the book too, we talk about actual like historical encounters. Like when the Spanish came to the New World and encountered these the native people that were 7-8 feet tall and that sort of thing. And that's something that I'm fascinated in. I'm real fascinated by, the burial mounds and things like that, in North America, and, especially in the Ohio Valley, and Kanawha valleys of West Virginia. And, I've spent a lot of time traveling to these mound sites, and, I've been trying to learn all I can about them, and, pouring through a lot of old writings of, these giant skeletons that have been recovered and that sort of thing.
But if these giants did walk the earth, where did they go, and where are these giant skeletons?
Well, where did they go? I think that that they were, eventually killed off or just died out, bred out for the most part. And the skeletons, a lot of them, in the early days of westward expansion, as farmers were plowing fields, they were just tearing up these mounds. I mean, just plowing right over them, and care wasn't taken with a lot of these bones and things. And then in other times, the mounds they were looted and desecrated, and the artifact hunters would just take them and do whatever. And a lot of bones have been that have been in museum collections and things have been returned to to a lot of the tribes that have had claims on them. So I know a lot of them have been repatriated, but and then there's a lot of speculation that perhaps maybe the Smithsonian maybe even disposed of a lot of the bones that they may have had in their collection. It's hard to say, but bottom line, I don't really know of any of these giant remains that you could look at today.
Doesn't that make it hard for people like yourself who are trying to research this project?
Yeah, it's extremely hard, and that's that's the first thing that people say is, well, okay, hey genius, where's the bones? It's like, I don't know. But the fact that there's so many, I mean, just the newspaper reports is just incredible how many, and it's just like from the 1800s and even early 1900s. It's just spoken of so matter-of-factly. They'll just be like on page 8 of just some local newspaper somewhere. There'll just be a little paragraph, Farmer John Smith plowing his field, recovered 8-foot giant. I mean, it's just so common. And then when you compare that with a lot of the the Native American histories and a lot of the other myths and religious texts and things like that of giants, it just seems to me that there's got to be something, a little something behind it.
All right, stand by. We're going to talk more as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with our guest this hour, X Zone Nation, Denver Michaels. His website is www.denvermichaels.com, and we'll both return after this break. And don't forget, the X Zone channel on SimulTV, www.simultv.com. And for all the broadcasting that we do here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on SimulTV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is SimulTV. SimulTV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. SimulTV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have SimulTV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
And welcome back, everyone. You're listening to us around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and iHeartRadio. Denver Michaels is our guest, www.denvermichaels.net. Tell us about your interest in the paranormal, my friend.
Yeah, I've always had an interest in the paranormal. I like to, one of the things I do when I have some free time, I like to go around to as many places as I can that are known for hauntings and things like that. When I was doing research for my West Virginia book about paranormal and unexplained in West Virginia, I visited a lot of sites and like the West Virginia State Penitentiary. For one, that was that's a pretty cool place, and the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I just really enjoy going to these places, learning about their histories, and seeing as many of these places as I can for myself.
So tell me, have you ever gone to a place to do research and you've had the hell scared out of you?
My wife has. She goes with me a lot,
right.
And she seems to be a little more, I guess maybe a little more sensitive to that kind of stuff than I am. I remember we were down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, between Christmas and New Year's. We went down there, and we went to a cemetery down there, White Oak Cemetery, that's known for hauntings and we're like really known for a lot of paranormal activity and stuff. And we'd gone around the cemetery and I took a lot of pictures and stuff. And then she took my picture by the sign, and she, as she's taking my picture, she's drops the phone and like started running, and I'm like, what? She's like, oh my God, there was something right behind you. It was like a figure of a man. And so she's had a couple of those type of encounters. I haven't seen things to like that she has, but I kind of trust her. Trust her intuition, though, because the thing with her is I'm into this paranormal stuff. She couldn't give a rip about it. I mean, she'd rather be home doing something else. She just kind of goes with me, just to help me take pictures.
Oh, come off it. If your wife is anything like my wife, they'd rather be out shopping, spending our money, than be with us looking at this weird stuff that they consider to be, what, are you guys nuts?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think is so cool is I kind of get jealous that that she kind of sees a lot of these things and stuff, and I don't. But it kind of makes you think.
Why do you think in the year 2018 people are still interested in ghosts?
Well, it's just because there's. Well, I mean, for one, because, weird things just happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2018. We have this technology, but you still have that thing that moved, that you didn't move, and nobody else is in here,
right?
Or those sounds, or like I was telling you with my wife, like actually seeing like an apparition. That stuff, still happens.
Could it also be because here we are in the year 2018, and there are still mysteries that escape us with all our modern technology? We still cannot discover what is behind the mystery.
Well, that's exactly right. We're not any closer to knowing any more about what happens when we die than we were 5,000 years ago, right?
That's true.
We could be having this same conversation in Sumerian,
All right, you open the door. Let me see what's behind door number 1. What do you think happens when we die?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, it seems like that there might be a little something to the reincarnation thing to me, but I mean, who knows? I just, what I do think is that it's probably not, what I was taught as a kid in Sunday school. I don't think it's, it's you have to follow this, or, you either go to heaven,
or you go to hell
and worship God all your life, or you go to a literally burning lake of fire and brimstone. I don't think it's that.
Well, wait a minute. The fire and brimstone, weren't they talking about Hawaii?
That's what. Yeah, that's something. What's going on over there right now, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. My heart goes out to all our listeners in Hawaii. Please stay safe. What's your take on UFOs? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, UFOs, it's not something that, I've really done a whole heck of a lot of research into. It's something I'm interested in, not something I'm real knowledgeable about. But, I think that, I do believe in extraterrestrials. I don't know if, if they're going around abducting people out of their bedrooms or not. I think a lot of UFOs are, covert, military
Black
technology
Ops.
that we'll learn about 35 years from now, that sort of thing. But I do believe that there is an extraterrestrial element to at least some of the sightings.
Well, I was asking you that, Denver, because I know that there are a number of Bigfoot researchers who think or who believe there is a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs.
Yeah, I've certainly heard that, and I've seen that in some of the research that I've done, looking at some Bigfoot sightings, and then kind of cross-referencing when the sighting occurred. There was one, I can't remember. It was in Illinois somewhere, but I was me and a friend were kind of trying to figure out what was going on, and it wasn't a Bigfoot sighting. It was more of some other kind of strange cryptid, but I mean, whatever. It's a cryptid sighting, and so just for the heck of it, I was looking through the MUFON database, and sure enough, there were 2 UFO sightings. I don't know how far away, but it's like in the same county that same week. And so, and you hear about things like that over and over and over. And I know over in some places that I've, looked at over in Maryland, there have been a lot of Bigfoot sightings at the same time. There have been like crop circles in farmers' fields and, UFO, or at least lights in the sky, is how a lot of it's been reported. So it does make you wonder if there's some connection.
Sure.
I don't know what that connection would be, but
Well, one of the correlations that I did was that it seems that the first report about a Bigfoot at the same time appearing as a UFO sighting was shortly after the release of Star Wars, where Chewbacca, I think that's how you say his name, I'm not a Star Wars fan, or Chewie, resembles a Bigfoot.
Well, yeah, I mean, makes sense, I guess.
What kind of influence do you think Hollywood and the media has on the perception of people when it comes to the paranormal?
Well, I think it has a great deal, and one thing that I've kind of looked at in what little UFO research I have done, if you read books from back in the 50s, most and reports back in the 50s, it was Venusians back then, and nowadays it's it's Pleiadians. You know what I'm saying? And I can remember a report in a book I read, can't remember the name of the book now, but anyway, like a spaceman comes out and he's wearing like a suit, and a tie, kind of like how people in the 50s dressed. And nowadays, we've got your gray aliens and stuff. So it's almost like that the descriptions kind of evolve over time as our perceptions evolve over time. And I think those perceptions are, largely driven by, movies and things like that.
Listen, our time is nearly up, my friend. First of all, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on all your books and all the work that you're doing. Let our listeners know where they can find your books and where they can find out more about you, Denver Michaels.
Yeah, my books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, so just wherever you buy books. And, people can go to my website, denvermichaels.net. And I also have a YouTube channel, Author Denver Michaels. Just search for that. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter. So, I'm pretty active.
All right. Denver, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X Zone.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
You take care, my man. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Denver Michaels. His website is www.denvermichaels.net. Now, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Once again, if you'd like to find out all about our broadcast schedule, who's going to be around, what we're going to be doing, when, where, how, and why, visit us at www.xzbn.net. And for more information on Simul TV and how you can watch the X Zone channel on Simul TV, simple, simultv.com. And don't forget, we're always looking for neat videos to play on our channel and get your videos in front of 30 million watchers. Send me your email. We'll be in contact. X-Zone at xzoneradiotv.com. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com, or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.